Hi everyone, this is Steve Krause and welcome to Writing for the World Wide Web. This is Writing 444 for spring 2014, and this is just a brief little intro video that I'm shooting this afternoon before classes begin in my home office. The lighting's a little weird because where the sun's coming in and stuff, but hopefully you get the idea. And what I'm going to do here is just run through some basic things about the class, talk about the syllabus a little bit, some of the other conditions and stuff, and then watch this video, and after you get done watching that, go down below there and introduce yourself. Okay? All right. So the class is called Writing for the World Wide Web. Some of my colleagues think it's kind of an outdated name, and maybe it is. Maybe a better name would be something like writing code and content for the web, or writing what writers need to know about the web nowadays, or something like that. I haven't quite figured it out. But as you can tell from the description of the course, it's about writing things on the web, which means learning some coding and some software and some layout issues and things like that. And it's also about participating in writing that happens on the web and analyze it, which means social media and some of the readings and such. My office is going to be moving this summer. I don't know exactly where yet, but I'll let you know when it is. But frankly, since it's an online class, you probably are only going to get a hold of me, or need to get a hold of me, via email. If you want to meet face to face, we'll set up some sort of time, because I'm not going to have regular office hours, since this is where my regular office is going to be this summer. A couple of books that you need to get right away. One is this one, Jenny Reddish's Letting Go of Words. Fantastic book. Be sure to get the second edition. I have lots of notes in mine, and I'm leaning more heavily on this book this semester than I have in the past. But for sure, get this book. But if you have to get one book right now and save for the later for the other one, get this one first. Head First HTML, second edition. This is going to be, this looks intimidating because it's a big fat book, but it's actually a very easy and friendly to use book on how to learn HTML and CSS, which is something we'll get to straight away here early on in the course. When you look at the syllabus, you see I have a long sort of preamble information there about hardware and software, computer experience, and things like that. Read through that all on your own. The only thing, I guess I'll just say a couple of things real quickly about it. Given the nature of the course, not only that it's an online course, but it's also a course about writing code and writing for the web, the kind of writing that you need to know as a writer, as a professional practicing writer, about how to make things for the web. It's a little bit more computer intense and visually intense than a class like, say, freshman composition might have been, or a class where you just write research papers or something like that. What I'm getting at is that this is a class where we're going to be getting into using the tools and talking about how to use them, and where that sort of knowledge and experience with the technology is really key. So, as I say there, if you're someone who's been thinking about getting a new computer anyways, this isn't a bad time to do so. If you're someone who's not really necessarily comfortable with computers, I can help you, and that's really what, especially can do that this summer since it's such a small group, and maybe that's the best sort of thing to encounter. It's a sort of time to, if you have some sort of fears about this stuff, to face those fears and to conquer this stuff. It's also a class that walks a fine line between, is it a computer class, is it an art class, etc. I'm going to say that the answer to both of those questions is no. I think that the things that we're going to be talking about this summer, both in terms of computer coding and in terms of layout and visual design and things like that, are the kinds of things that if you were to go out into the world as a professional writer, as someone who was going to write, market themselves as someone who could write for, get a job writing social media, or doing content analysis, or a technical writer for web pages or things like that, all that kind of stuff. I think that the kinds of things that we'll be learning this semester all fit into that category. But I will admit, this does sort of, this is a class that sort of expands the definitions of what it might mean to be a writer, which is cool. Let me talk a little bit about some of the challenges of the online 7.5 week format. Okay, let's talk about 7.5 weeks first. That's obviously half as long as a regular 15-week semester. So that's good because it moves it moves quicker. We'll be done with the class sooner. but it's bad because it basically means everything moves twice as fast. So the class is about the same amount of work. It's a little bit less actually, but it's about the same amount of work as it would be in a 15-week semester. But because everything moves twice as fast, it means that there's always something due, and things and the assignments move that much more quickly. The other whammy of the double whammy of the conditions of the summer is that it's online. And what online classes mean is a certain kind of freedom and a certain kind of responsibility that comes with that freedom. What I mean by that is I'm recording this actually Sunday afternoon before the semester gets started in the comfort of my own home. You're probably reading this wherever it is that you live, maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening, maybe you're doing this at work. You have all kinds of flexibility about where and when you do these things. But the problem is that with that flexibility, sometimes you give yourself enough rope to hang yourself, and you have good intentions about participating in the class, but then you kind of forget. It's sort of like if you buy your own exercise bike and with the intentions of using it, but then it just becomes this thing in your bedroom that you hang laundry on, then you're not really making use of that. So you need to be aware that that's a big part of the class. The big part of the class in terms of making the online function or online part of the class work is that you have to stay motivated with it. The other thing about the online participation that's really important is that this is not the kind of online class where you can just do everything on like a Saturday night or something like that. There's, as you'll see when we talk about the schedule, I basically divide the semester or divide the work of the class up Monday through Friday total, where there's some activities that you begin on Monday and then we wrap up by Wednesday, and then you begin on Wednesday and wrap up by Friday. That's because, again, writing being a social process and this kind of work being the kind of thing that we want to support each other and working our way through the assignments, you can't just do it all on your own. Okay. There's the rule of thumb is you should probably spend as much time online engaged with the class as you would if we were meeting face to face. And if we were meeting face to face, that would mean about 6 hours a week. And you may be saying to yourself, "Gosh, that sure seems like a lot." And I said, "I know it is, but that's the way that it would. That's the way it works. That's the way it would work if we were meeting face to face as well." What I recommend doing is setting up for in your own life a calendar for when you'll participate in the class. And I would recommend trying to participate in the class every day, Monday through Friday. Maybe you're a morning person and you want to spend an hour in the morning, working through the materials. Maybe you're an afternoon person, whatever you want to do. But I'd really encourage you to touch the course Monday through Friday every day for an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. And then it'll be easy to keep up with the material. It'll be easy to keep up with the discussion. There is there's an attendance and a participation grade associated with the class. You need to be present in the class during the course of the week. And if you're not, I'll count you as virtually absent. And if you're virtually absent too many times, you won't be able to pass the class. The reason why this is important is I've had students in the past who have kind of dug themselves into a hole, and they started off in the first week and they were there and present and active, and then they were gone for 2 weeks, and then they came back and they're like, well, what would be the problem? It's like, well, imagine if you missed a face-to-face class for 2 weeks with no warning notice or whatever. That'd probably be a problem too, especially 2 weeks in a term where everything moves twice as fast, which means it's like missing a month worth of class. So if by chance, as part of the spring summer that's coming up here, you're planning on being gone the first 2 weeks of June on a backpacking trip through the UP or something like that, and you won't have access to the internet, you may want to rethink this class or rethink your trip, because that's not going to work. You got to make sure that you're going to be able to keep participating in the class no matter what other things are going on. Most of the class, of course, are the writing assignments. The big writing assignments are the HTML, CSS, and CSS Zenflowerpot exercises, the semester of social media exercises, the usability text to hypertext project. Now, all the assignments are described on the website right now. You should go take a look at those assignments under writing assignments, and that'll help you out figure out what they're going to be doing. Just a couple quick words about each one. This book right here, and what we're going to be starting with, the HTML, CSS, and CSS Zen flower pot exercises. It's basically about learning enough of the basics of HTML and CSS code so that you can get a web page up and running with nothing more than just a text editor. Now, this is a debate amongst people in writing studies, the extent to which students in a class like this really need to learn how to code. And I guess my thoughts on this are I'll share two thoughts on this for the time being. The first one is that the kinds of information that's in a book like this nowadays is actually pretty basic stuff. And I mean, relative to the kinds of things that you can do on the web with JavaScript and, you know, computer languages and stuff like that we're not going to really get into. It's CSS and HTML are the bare bones kinds of things that you need to make a web page. We're not going to even scratch the surface of things like PHP and MySQL databases and Java and all kinds of junk like that. That it really is computer programming. The second thing I would say that I think is important why we're doing this is because having a conceptual understanding of HTML and CSS code really is fundamental to all the other work that we'll be doing this semester. Not only in terms of the CSS Zen flower pot exercises, but developing your own web pages, working with the WordPress site, even working with social media, because basically it's the sort of basic grammar of how to make web pages work. And the other thing I'll mention real quick is that it's really one of the most practical, pragmatic things that you can really do in any writing class is learning a little bit about code. The semester social media assignment, though it's described pretty clearly there, you'll join at least 2 other social medias that you're not involved with right now. And the usability text to hypertext project, which we'll get to very soon, has essentially 2 halves to it. One half will be doing a collaborative group usability study of a website, the Ypsilanti, Michigan Firehouse Museum's website, based largely on some of the stuff that we'll be reading here and a few other places. And you'll develop your own website based on some text that you've done before, you've written before, that you'll bring to the class to change into a web page. Okay, if you're a graduate student, there's another project that you need to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. What I'm going to ask you to do is to find someone to interview that's relevant to the material for the course, someone out in the world. You can interview them face to face, you can interview them electronically, and then share that with us as essentially a presentation that you'll do online. The other thing I'll mention to graduate students real quick is there's some paperwork that I have a link to down below that you need to fill that out to make sure that you can get this course, which is a 400 level course, for graduate level credit. Everyone's going to be working with WordPress to put together a simple portfolio. There's a couple of reasons we're doing this. The first reason is because it's a nice way to sort of capture everything together, all the work that you've done for the class into a portfolio. But the other reason we're doing this is that WordPress is a very simple blogging software, but also very simple content management software. And while HTML and CSS are indeed still the backbones to how the web works, most websites that you see nowadays actually you see them in the form of some kind of content management software. We'll talk more about the technicalities of this stuff later on. I always like to mention to people that in order to pass the course, you must complete all the website projects regardless of the grade that you get in anything else. So if you decided, you know what, I don't really want to do a WordPress site, or I don't really want to do the the social media project, well, you would fail, because you just have to complete all the work. Now, if you look at the main website, you'll see at the top that there's a thing that says Schedule Spring 2014. If you take a look at where it says Schedule Spring 2014, you'll see kind of a rundown of what we'll be doing to the course of the semester. Some of this is a work in progress because I found out fairly late that I was going to be teaching this class. You probably found out fairly late that it was going to be running. And so I'm still trying to build some of the basic details of it. But there are 2 things I'll mention for now. The first one is that notice how it says begin by Monday and it has various activities, and then begin by Wednesday. That means that you should begin by Monday, not you have until Wednesday. You should begin on Monday. And the reason why that's important is because if everybody waited until the absolute end of the time of discussion, then we wouldn't really have a chance to discuss. Monday, in my view, and this is true for all days unless otherwise specified in the schedule, run until midnight. So you have until midnight on May 5th to begin discussing the class, and then, or enter the video, stuff like that, and then where it says begin by Wednesday, the first reading assignments, you have until midnight on that Wednesday to begin discussion for that. You'll see what I mean, because what I will do is on this page I'll start a post where I'll initiate discussion about a topic, and then people will join in the comments below. After you've set up a login to, a username and password, and hopefully you saw that in the syllabus, and we'll figure out how that all works. And then I think that that's about all you need to know for the time being. We're a small group, and so I hope we get to know each other well. I hope this is an opportunity, and I hope that you see that also as an opportunity for you to use me as a resource, because this is the only class I'm teaching right now this summer, and I have time to give to folks, and I'm happy to do so. So, again, introduce yourselves below, ask whatever questions you have, jump on into the assignments, and I'll see you online.